Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to Office Hours with Michael Kitces. So today I want to talk about picking a CFP educational program, and specifically this idea of whether it matters what school you get your CFP education from. So today's question comes from Chad, and Chad asks, I've been an advisor for 4 years now, and now that I've survived, as he puts it, the most difficult stage, I'm looking to get my CFP certification. My firm has a discount deal with the American College, and I've also been checking out the College for Financial Planning in Denver and Boston University CFP program. Right now, I'm leaning towards the Boston University program, as while College for Financial Planning is actually the cheapest, I'm worried that no one outside of our industry has ever heard of American College or College for Financial Planning, but people know Boston University. What do you think? Does it matter what school you get your CFP from? Great question, Chad. You know, there's a huge focus these days on not just getting into college, but getting into the right college. We see this constantly with our own clients doing college planning for kids. It seems like whether it's even realistic or not, everybody wants a plan that starts out where their kids are going to go to Harvard or Yale or Stanford, and then we back off from there once we see what happens when the little 2-year-old actually finishes high school 15 years from now. And so I suppose it's no great surprise as more and more families are focusing on where their kids go to get their college education, that the same question would start coming up about CFP programs in particular, and this question of whether it matters where you go to get your CFP education and does going to the right school give you a leg up on your financial planning career. Well, when it comes to clients, the simple answer is this. The reality is that most people will not care at all what school you went to for your CFP education. And I say this as someone who got my CFP from the American College, that very institution that you noted, that virtually no one outside of our industry has heard of. And you know what? You're right. They haven't heard of it, and it just doesn't matter. It's been about 15 years since I finished my CFP education. I think the grand number of times I can ever recall a client asking where I got my CFP marks is minuscule. Now, I'll grant it isn't zero. I can think of maybe 1 or 2 times over the years, but I can count it on one hand. And in all those cases where it did happen, I simply responded, well, I took my CFP classes through the American College. They're not actually well known outside of our industry, but they're the longest standing higher educational institution that teaches financial advisors. They've been doing it for almost 100 years in our industry. And you know what happens after that? The client says, oh, okay. And then that's that. And we move on. And frankly, this isn't really unique to where you get your CFP. And we see the same thing where people get their college education as well, undergraduate degrees, even graduate degrees. Yet there are a small set of well-known Ivy League schools whose names have some cachet. But for the other, 99% of schools, most people, the average consumer, doesn't even know where schools rank. And particularly when you get into industries and specializations. I think about this for other professionals. Like, do you ask your doctor where they got their medical degree? And would it matter if they said University of Washington versus Harvard? Would it matter if I told you that under the U.S. News rankings, University of Washington is actually number 1 on the list and Harvard isn't even top 10? Right, what about law school? Would you prefer a lawyer that went to University of Pennsylvania or Baylor University? University of Pennsylvania, top 10 law school. Baylor, not even the top 50. Now, I'm not trying to knock some of those schools or the other, but the point is that when you're not in an industry, or you don't maybe happen to live close to the relevant university, most people have no idea what the top schools actually are, especially when it comes to any kind of graduate level or professional education beyond just the big name undergrad degrees. And because of that, in practice, I find clients just don't ask. Now, if your marketing strategy is to network through the alumni association at your school, then it kind of matters, because that's really not about the educational program per se. That's about a niche marketing strategy working through your school. So if your niche is going to be Harvard alums, and try to figure out how to get your degree from Harvard. But there your school only matters because it's a marketing strategy to that school and the alumni. It's not because, hey, I want to make sure that every client, no matter who I work with, asks me so that I can respond with a pedigreed school. And again, short of that scenario, the truth is I just find clients virtually never ask. Or if they do, it's kind of a lightweight question that any reasonable explanation of where you got your degree covers it. So American College, did you know they originated professional education for financial advisors with the CLU program almost a century ago? College for Financial Planning. Did you know they're the longest standing CFP educational program of any in existence since they taught the first class of CFPs 45 years ago? The college was actually part of the CFP board for its first 13 years. They split apart in 1985 to become what we now know as College for Financial Planning and CFP board. So at worst, even if you go to one of those schools that an average consumer hasn't heard of and someone asks, you can explain the pedigree of the school in our industry, and that's that. As an American graduate myself, I've never had a client ask a follow-up. And again, I can count on one hand the number that have even asked the question at all in 15 years. So the bottom line is in this is if you're proud of getting your CFP marks and it gives you expertise and confidence and you communicate that accordingly, that is the primary benefit of the designation. That's what matters, not getting the right institution at the top of your degree, but actually being more knowledgeable and confident and using that to communicate more effectively with clients. Now, all that being said, I think there actually are some situations where you get your CFP does matter at least a little. The first is if you're trying to get a financial planning job. Not go and get clients, not get a sales job, a business development role, but an internal job as a paraplanner or an associate planner. Because the reality from the hiring side as an employer, having done this over the years with our advisory firm at Pinnacle Advisory Group, hiring a new person into the industry, there's not much to go on. You don't have much job history yet. You don't have much experience yet. So as a hiring firm, all I've got to go on is your grades, maybe some extracurriculars, and where you went to school. And so, yeah, I'll admit, in that context, going to a known CFP program helps a little. Because if we don't know much about you at all, if you've got Texas Tech or Virginia Tech on your resume, and I know those are schools with very reputable CFP programs, it at least casts a little bit of a positive halo on you. They're good schools, so you at least get the benefit of a doubt that you're probably a decent candidate. Now, that being said, the truth is that at least at a firm like ours, at best, that might get you an interview. It might get you into the screening process. It's not going to get you the job. Frank, over the years, we've created our own tools to vet candidates that we evaluate. And ultimately, we look at skills, we look at passion. We don't look at your alma mater. And the same is true when we do hiring for paraplanners and associate planners at new planner recruiting. We hire for passion, we hire for skills. We try to identify raw talent. We barely look at your alma mater. In part, that's because the reality in today's environment is that good students can come from programs all over the country. We're just not so hyper-competitive in an industry yet where all the super top talent only goes to a handful of top schools where you have to pick from those schools to get the top people. We see it in practice, new planner recruiting. Good talent can come from anywhere. We're actually much more interested in what you learned in your CFP program. We actually give a fake CFP test that we created just to test how much people really know. And the score is based on how many questions you got right, not which school taught you the answers. Now, I'll grant not every firm evaluates candidates as thoroughly as we do. And for those that don't, maybe the halo effect of a good school or at least a known school, because the truth is no one's actually done rankings of CFP programs to truly determine which are the best schools. The halo effect of a known school might get you an interview and tilt things a little in your favor. But it's still probably not going to get you the job all by itself. If you want the job, worry more about learning to be a good CFP, not where you get your CFP education. Now, the one other area where I'll note where it might actually matter where you get your CFP education is if you plan to go into academia and teach. Because the truth is for academia, it's still not necessarily actually about where you got your CFP education, like those 6 core classes, which are really undergrad equivalent content. But where you get your master's degree may matter. Where you get your PhD may matter. Because when it comes to academia, you're not competing for consumer mindshare. You're not trying to get a job from a firm that says, well, you're so new, it's hard to evaluate you. You went to a good school, let's go for it. In academia, school rankings matter more. There is a hierarchy, and many schools like to have a good pedigree for their professors. Now, that being said, even with the academia, I'm actually still skeptical about just how much this matters. Because the truth is that so many schools are still starting up CFP programs that right now they're not that selective yet. I mean, they're more interested in hiring people that have good teaching skills, the ability to build an effective program, maybe even some connections to help raise money for getting the program started or doing research, not necessarily about academic pedigree. But I'll grant that will vary from school to school. There are some schools that are more strict about this than others, especially if you want to teach graduate level financial planning in a business school. Because business schools in particular, which is where a lot of the CFP board is trying to push growth now, business schools tend to hire professors who got degrees from other AACSB accredited business schools. So it's fair to recognize that where you get an advanced degree could matter. Still, many of the new PhD job opportunities in recent years were going to start new financial planning programs, and they just wanted reasonably qualified PhD candidates. School pedigree may have shown up somewhere as a factor, but probably not a driver of the decision. So the bottom line is that for most people, especially anyone who's doing this to get a job or get started with an advisory firm, don't stress about where you get your CFP. Stress about finding a program that you can do well in. And well doesn't mean get a good grade. Well means actually learn the content. So for most people looking at our CFP education, my 4 tips are: number 1, look at the educational curricula of the programs you're checking out. What classes do they offer? What electives do they have? Which ones are relevant and appealing for you as a good match? Number 2, what's the learning platform? Is it a virtual program where you're going to be at a distance, or is it in person? Which one's better for you? Do you prefer in person, or would you rather do it online? What fits your learning style? Which one fits your schedule? I mean, the truth is sometimes this just comes down to schedule. Hey, I found a cool program, but they teach on Tuesdays and I can't do Tuesdays because I got stuff with my kids. I can do Thursdays, so I'm going to do this other program. Or I'm going to do a virtual one that's asynchronous so I can study on the weekends and it doesn't matter when the classes are. And then just which one fits your budget, because the truth is the costs do vary from one program to another. So if you want actually more info on that, I'll encourage you, just go check out the article that we did back in 2015 on the blog, specifically on this question of how to pick the best CFP registered program for you based on your needs. Because in the end, the biggest determinant of success is going to be how well you really learn the material and how confidently you can use it. And we see that now in the research studies coming forth on what's the value of a CFP education. No one says pedigree. They say it gave me expertise to help my clients more. They say it gave me confidence to talk to my clients more effectively. That's what matters. So pick the program that lets you actually be a better advisor and let the good business results come from that. So focus on educational fit, not academic pedigree. Maybe that'll be different someday, but I don't see that changing in any real near term for anybody who's looking at schools today. So I hope that helps a little as food for thought about whether it really matters or not. What school is listed at the top of your degree when you get your CFP certification, and whether pedigree really matters. This is Office Hours with Michael Kitces, 1 p.m. East Coast time on Tuesdays. Obviously, we're a little late today due to a conflict in my schedule, but thanks for joining us late, and have a great day, everyone.